Welcome to our vlog.
Welcome to our vlog.
And today we're going to be talking about recovering from a difficult breakup.
And I think that's a worthy topic because I think this is something that crops up from time to time. I would suggest that we have a pretty good track record of keeping our clients together, but nevertheless, there may be the odd occasion where that's not the case. And so what were you going to say? Were you going to interrupt me?
I was going to interrupt you.
You're going to dispute that statement?
Well, I don't like to think of our work as being about keeping our clients together.
Yes, I guess I wouldn't say I have an agenda, but I do like the Hollywood ending. I'm very sentimental on that front.
Yeah, but I think our bigger purpose is to allow our clients to connect with their own wisdom and see what's for their highest good.
Yes, you're all big picture. I would agree. There's a little bit of an attachment to a happy ending, but nevertheless, that's not necessarily there's no agenda there.
There can still be happiness when people break up.
Exactly.
That's the whole point of this vlog today.
Exactly. So, okay, I stand corrected, maybe. So, what I feel like I've noticed for me, I think you did ask that question. Did you ask what I've noticed?
No, I didn't ask that question. But go ahead. Please tell me what you've noticed.
What I've noticed is that generally the people that really suffer, and I think that a part of it is they get into this sort of, I say this with some hesitation because I don't want people to take this the wrong way. But it's very easy to get into sort of victim mindset and woe is me and really start to sort of really entertain that narrative and marinate in that. And that never promotes a particularly good feeling. But I think that has its roots in this feeling that probably started at a developmental level where they feel unloved. So the breakup is bringing up all of that old material, which is what I would call a core wound that has not been addressed for probably decades. And the breakup exacerbates that in no uncertain terms. I think that if you were to ask me, what have you seen lately?
Is that what you've seen lately?
And evidently you didn't, but I was expecting that you would ask me that question.
You read my mind.
Is that what I would say? That I've not only seen lately, but I've seen for some time that this seems to be the case.
Well, I think that really hits the nail on the head. What I hear you saying is that when someone's really having a challenging time with a breakup, it's often because there's those unresolved feelings of hurt there, feeling not good enough, feeling unworthy, that are getting in the mix. And it's not even really about the breakup. Those are based on misunderstandings that are often created when we're really young. But I want to say that it's also important to recognize that grief is normal when relationships end. And sometimes people can have a hard time just being with feelings of grief. So we're not talking about not being with feelings of grief about the relationship ending. We want to have room for all of that feeling to come up. But you're also saying that can be complicated by these additional layers of hurt that aren't related to the relationship. Yeah,
and I think that it's easy perhaps for us to point or for whatever help that people are looking for to negotiate their way through a breakup. I think quite often you will probably be prompted, oh no, it's important to feel the grief, let that move through you. And I think absolutely that's a very important route to take. But I think there's also a great deal of importance to be allowed to sort of feel the feelings of being unloved, which you can trace back to, I'm sure, if you really looked at it or felt it or willing to observe it, that you would come back to that core wound. And I think all roads do lead to Rome on this one. And I think that's the thing that we tend to miss out on is that we might go to the grief. We could spend weeks, years in grief and focusing on that. But I think that the bigger issue is this misunderstanding that we are somehow separate from our essential nature. And that to me is the key path that I feel like we want to help our clients get on. Yeah.
So what I think can happen, and let me know if this fits in with what you're saying, what I think can happen is that people can avoid the real pain of that feeling of not feeling good enough, not feeling lovable, and one of the ways that they actually avoid those feelings is through focusing on the relationship, focusing on the breakup, focusing on either self-recrimination or blame of their ex-partner. And even though that's really uncomfortable and painful, it's actually a coping mechanism that feels safer than just being present to those other feelings that are based on the misunderstanding that I'm not good enough.
Yeah, I think that it's very easy to misconstrue this. I don't even want to call it an instruction, but let's call it an instruction to feel your feelings and allow that grief to move through you. I think that can be misconstrued to like, oh, I'll just spend a whole bunch of time replaying that narrative of breakup. That in some way allows me to stay in the grief. And I think this is what you're saying is like that can become the coping mechanism that allows the person to avoid that core feeling of being unloved. And for me, being able to address that and experience that is in a way where we might be applying love to that place inside that's really hurting, that's been avoided for so many years. And that's what's being activated, is this feeling of being unloved. And that for sure can start on a developmental level. And being able to apply love to that is kind of where it's at. That helps us remember, oh, yeah, you know what? Love is my essential nature. That's the factory default setting. And we've kind of lost the plot. We've gone off piste, if you like, and have decided that, yeah, love will be found out there when all along it was within me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that ability to be with the grief of a relationship ending is just simply being with the emotional experience, not running over the narrative analytically or going into the story. That's what I hear you saying, is like to just really be with the feelings of sadness, of loss that come up, but also be open to the feelings that are related to our misunderstandings about ourselves, that we're not worthy. And what I hear you saying, you said apply loving to that. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that I think it's a really hard thing to explain or articulate. And I do feel like, at the risk of repeating myself, yeah, we can. And I think there's value in going to the grief and letting that move through us. But I think we're really missing a trick, if you like, if you forgive the turn of phrase, which you might not, I don't know. This is not a technique. Is there's something around being able to sort of, yeah, there's something deeper that's hurting that I've been avoiding for so many years. And it's allowing myself to be curious about what that is and feel it. And I think in the feeling of it, to be honest, to be observed that feeling and understand that, yeah, you know what, that was something that emerged because I felt unsafe at some point in my life. I felt that doesn't look like love. For me, what really is needed in this situation is love. So if my essential nature is love, my application of my essential nature should be very healing within itself in my observation of that feeling or my experience of that feeling. Let it come up and wherever it takes you, it's like not something to be avoided. And I think what we're saying here is that the coping mechanism of replaying the narrative of breakup can be a way that we avoid feeling that we've been kind of running away from for, as I say, many years.
Yeah. And you're saying just feeling the feeling is enough?
I think that I want to suggest that feeling the feeling is enough in a way where, yeah, maybe it's not something that resolves itself immediately, but it's something that we learn to be more comfortable exploring. I don't know. If I say it's enough, it might think, yeah, people might hear this and think, yeah, something that's immediately going to shift. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it's certainly moving in the right direction.
And what I think also happens is when we're feeling that impact of the misunderstanding, we're being present to it. And in that presence, truth can come in, because the truth is we're all lovable, we're all worthy, we're all good enough. And so the pain dissolves when we come up against what's really true within us, and it's through presence that we come up against that truth.
Yeah, I think that's right on the money, and I think that the avoidance technique or the coping mechanism that emerges is anything but present. It's taking my mind elsewhere. It's kind of almost, well, not almost. It's preoccupying my mind, my analytical mind, with something that's not this feeling that feels so uncomfortable. Why am I avoiding my feelings? And I've become very adept at avoiding my feelings by playing the narrative and using the machinery to sort of steer me in a direction that will hopefully find comfort again. And that, for me, is a big part of the misunderstanding, that the feeling is something to, I want to say embrace, but it's, I guess in a sense it is, there is an embracing of that feeling, an allowance of that feeling, letting it move through us. And I think you're right. I think that will lead us to truth. The egoic mind will just sort of continue to spin this narrative that is kind of distracting us from the truth.
Yeah. So if somebody is struggling with a difficult relationship breakup, your invitation or our invitation to them is to get present, to feel the feelings that are there, but to not engage in the reviewing of the narrative about the relationship, but instead to meet themselves with their experience as it is and to see what emerges from that that's true and real.
Yeah, I think another word to use is surrender to that feeling that we've been running away from for all these years. And again, it kind of reminds me of that metaphor that I forget who shared this, but it's a wonderful metaphor where this lady mentioned or talked about that Native American culture that talks about the buffalo, how the buffalo, when a storm is coming, will come together as a herd and go headlong into the storm, thus getting it over as quickly as possible. You'd think that logic would decree that we would run away from the storm, but in running away, it just chases us and we're in the storm longer. It's a great metaphor in terms of like facing our feelings. It's like we'll get to the truth so much quicker, but if we resist them, if we run away from them, it's just going to hang around. And I think our methodology of resistance is to sort of keep on playing that narrative, keep on replaying that, which keeps us sort of anchored in this sort of victim state of mind of suffering, when in actual fact, that feeling is helping us. It's a guide back to truth.
That's beautiful. And I think people don't realize how the narrative can be a coping mechanism to try and protect us from the deeper feelings of feeling not good enough. There's the pain of the relationship ending, but when we stay on that level, we're not actually meeting the deeper feelings of not feeling good enough. And in that presence to that, we can awaken to what is really true about who we are.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Well, thank you, Angus. And
thank you, Rahini.
We hope this is helpful for anyone that's struggling with a breakup. And if you have any questions, just please leave them in the comments.
Sounds good. Have a lovely rest of your day or evening.
Lots of love. Take care.
Take care. Bye.